Oh, and have we recovered some of these crafts?
So what I can say, I wrote my book for a very specific reason. First of all, I wanted to document and record my experiences in an actual UAP program by the Pentagon. But more importantly, I had to get it reviewed by the Pentagon. I had to go through a security review. In this case, almost a year it went through this security review. And so when I finally got the book back, that was the Pentagon saying, you can publish this. It is not classified. And in fact, anything that we don't want, we're going to go ahead and redact, which I left in the book. So anybody can read and say, oh, that's a portion the government doesn't want you to see. And I kept those redactions covered so people can see exactly what I wrote.
Can I have that copy?
Well, I don't. Okay.
All right, y'all, I have a nice treat for y'all today. Luis Elizondo did a CNN interview recently, and it is really hard to find because I didn't put the clip up on YouTube. So, I've got it. All right, so today we're going to take a look at that clip of Luis Elizondo's new interview on CNN, and we're going to actually take a look back at what Luis Elizondo said on CNN just after he came out about 6 years ago and see the difference because it's interesting. So let's jump into this very first clip. Take a look back in time, 6 years ago, when Luis Elizondo first appeared on CNN and dropped this bombshell. I'm sure you'll remember.
So let me just ask you point blank the question. Do you believe that life from somewhere else, while you ran this program, came here, visited, observed?
I will tell you unequivocally that through the observation, scientific methodologies that were applied to look at this phenomena, that these aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of.
So I know you're being clear, but I mean, the answer is yes.
I can't speak on behalf of the government. Obviously, I'm not in the U.S. government anymore. My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone, whatever that means.
Okay, who doesn't remember that? We are not alone, whatever that means, right? We are not alone. And I remember that clip. I remember thinking, holy mother effort, right? Like, this is crazy. We're not alone. Right, someone of his stature saying something of that importance and relevance about a topic that I cared about, it meant something, right? Even though it wasn't a full declaration, right? He didn't go all the way. He got up to the line and he didn't go over the line of just admitting we are not alone, right? He's saying we think we're not alone, right? But now let's fast forward to today. And specifically, most recently, when Luis Elizondo appeared on CNN to promote his new book, Imminent, of course, right, which I've covered many times on the channel. I'll put a link in the description so you can go get the book, of course. And he appeared to talk about the book and other things in it, right? And he's, in my opinion, as far as just that declaration of we are not alone, to me, he's crossed over that line. Not a line like morally or classified or, truth or nothing like that. I just mean the line of making a declaration, right? Specifically, we are not alone, and not saying, I think we are, it's like, no, we're not alone, right? This is fact now, right? According to him. So, and it's compelling. Right, what he says and how he says it. And I like that he just sticks with NHI and craft and what we're doing, right? If you know what I mean, right? He's not like talking smack about other UFO researchers or other things, right? He's just talking about what he knows, what he's been told, what he experienced, and I can appreciate that. So, look, I've broken down this CNN clip into 3 different parts. So let's take a look at the first part, and then we'll discuss.
Luis Elizondo joins me now. How unbelievably exciting. Everyone is almost hitting their televisions with trying to lean in on this moment. I mean, you have written that the U.S. government has been operating a decades-long, I got to read this, crash retrieval program for these UAP, that biological remains of non-human origin have been found. Are you telling me that aliens are real?
Well, what I'm saying, Laura, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. What I'm saying is that we have something that is made by non-humans. So whatever that means, right? We're talking about aliens in the vernacular sense, or are we talking about something that's been here all along? There's a lot of options. We're just now at the point as a nation, as a country, as a government, where we're beginning to acknowledge this.
Why is it that there is so little transparency around this issue? I mean, what drives that decision? Is it fear? Is it lack of information? Is it something else?
All governments want to make sure that they can provide safety and security for their people, for their citizens. And in this particular case, we have technologies that are being incurred into controlled U.S. airspace and over sensitive military installations, performing in ways that we cannot replicate, and there's nothing we can do about it. So that's not a really good conversation to have if you're a military leader to have with the American people, right? Until you have a solution.
All right, let's be real. In my opinion, Luis Elizondo is making some good points here, right? If we have something flying around that we don't know what it is, right, what should we do about it? And let's be real, even Obama has admitted that.
But what is true, and I'm actually being serious here, is that there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern. And so, I think that people still take seriously trying to investigate and figure out what that is. But I have nothing to report to you today.
It's okay. Lots of people have admitted that we have things flying around and we don't know what they are. Now, to go to they are non-human is a different step to take, but we can all agree that is happening, and we should take that very seriously, right? So now that that's out of the way, right, let's get to a statement he just made, Luis Elizondo just made in there, right, which we have something that is non-human. That is more of a declaration, right, of this. And that is fascinating, right? Because, and he goes on to define or ask the question, like, what does that even mean, non-human, right? Alien or something else has been here or this or that or whatever. We don't know. But I guess they are saying we are in possession of something that we didn't make, humans didn't make. But can we make that declaration? I get that certain people have looked at it and made certain steps, but how many people do we need to come together and sort of admit that that's it, right? Is it just a few? One person looks at, how many opinions do we need? In my opinion, which means nothing, I think we need the most opinions possible on this to make that declaration, because that would be the single greatest discovery in mankind's history, right? So to find out there's not, that there's another intelligent species besides us, around us. So we need more opinions. So what is Luis Elizondo basing that declaration on? Well, definitely read his book. There's a lot in there for sure. And, check out some of the videos I've made about it as well, if you want to look in further. But at the end of the day, it is your decision to make. Don't let anyone else make it for you. Don't feel pressured to think any one way or the other about it. It's your decision to make, right? How seriously do you want to take this declaration? I, for one, my eyebrows go up and I'm like, okay, I'm paying attention. That's where I'm at. I'm paying attention. This interests me, clearly, right? And I want to know where this goes. So, look, let's take a look at the second clip. This is fascinating. This is a really good interview with Luis Elizondo. So here we go. Second clip. Enjoy.
By the way, you mentioned military. I mean, there's this video released in 2017 that shows Navy pilots encountering this UAP. Can you explain what we might be seeing here?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of videos out there, and the
Really?
government has, yes. So a lot of people are familiar with the 3 videos that you're showing now, but what a lot of people don't know is there's been other ones that have come out forward from the Pentagon where they've released it, and they said, look, we have no idea what this is. That's a perfect example. That is another example they call the silver orb. That is the famous gimbal video. That is a vehicle that is flying at altitude. It's going 120 knots against the wind. That is hurricane force winds, right? We're not talking about a balloon. We're talking about a technical vehicle that is going against the wind, and it begins to maneuver in a very interesting way. Most aircraft, because you have wings, when you turn and you articulate the aircraft this way, you lose lift and you lose altitude. That's not what we're seeing in that video. We're seeing a crowd. And you can even hear the exasperation of the pilots when they say, whoa, bro, that's not a drone, dude. And there's some expletives there. And the vehicle begins to turn in a way that really, these are trained pilots. These pilots are trained observers. They're combat. Some of them are Top Gun pilots. They know the difference between an Su-22, a MiG-25, and an F-16 from 10 miles away. And what they're seeing there defies all description. In some cases, these things don't even have wings, no rudders, no ailerons, no control surfaces, no cockpits. And so therein lies the conundrum.
Wow. And have we recovered some of these crafts?
So what I can say, I wrote my book for a very specific reason. First of all, I wanted to document and record my experiences in an actual UAP program by the Pentagon. But more importantly, I had to get it reviewed by the Pentagon. I had to go through a security review. In this case, almost a year it went through this security review. And so when I finally got the book back, that was the Pentagon saying, you can publish this. It is not classified. And in fact, anything that we don't want, we're going to go ahead and redact, which I left in the book. So anybody can read and say, oh, that's a portion the government doesn't want you to see. And I kept those redactions covered so people can see exactly what I wrote.
Can I have that copy?
Well, I don't. Okay. Well, when I say the redactions are in there, what I mean is the black lines, right? I'm very careful. I still have my security clearance, and I certainly don't want to violate the law or compromise national security. But this is, I think, is important because this is the ability for me to write an experience and get it approved by the government to say you can talk about it. But that's not the only time that's happened. Recently, last year, there was a historic hearing that occurred in Congress where several people, 2 pilots and an intelligence officer, testified before the American people under oath to Congress, where they talked about none other than the potential of the recovery of advanced technology not made by humans and biological samples.
Okay, biological samples. Don't worry. Stay with me. We are going to get to that. And to be honest, that fascinates me the most about all of this, right? Over the craft, which they showed several videos, right, that are UFO videos, famous UFO videos, and some of them, right, things we cannot explain, which is interesting. But the biologics I do find interesting, so stay with me. The last thing that he brought up there, right, that David Grush, right, testifying with Commander David Fravor and Ryan Graves, right? I miss David Grush. I don't know about y'all, but I miss him being out talking, and I hope he comes out again soon and does some sort of interview or something, or his op-ed comes out, something, because I do miss hearing from him. And Luis Elizondo was right. That was a huge step forward to have those testimonies in front of Congress. That's how we're going to get closer to the truth. More hearings, more testimony under oath, right? Getting questioned directly from Congress, right? That is what we need. So, I'm glad that people come out and talk. It's more data, more information, right? We shouldn't be suppressing information or, quote unquote, don't platform these people or whatever that, stupid thing is that people say. Like, we should be hearing from people. Let people make up their own minds. Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to letting people make up their own minds? Do you think people are so stupid they can't make up their own minds? I disagree, right? And I'm always going to present the information and let you decide. It's that simple, right? You can critically think for yourself. I respect my audience. So, look, I'm excited for more hearings, and there are more to come. So, look, let's get to the biologics, because I think that's what everyone is a little curious about, and myself included. So let's hear from this last clip.
Well, talking about those samples, because of course Hollywood has an image in our minds of what, non-human biological data or looks like. I mean, look at this, anywhere from Tesseract from Interstellar to Navi from Avatar. I mean, any idea? Just which might be the closest?
The material that I have been privy to, and I have to be, I don't want to beat around the bush, but I also am very mindful of my security oath. I can't, I'll go right up to that line of what I can talk about. I can't go over it. We had trained medical doctors in the U.S. government look at some of these biological samples and also the material, and research was done. And when they did their research, I am certainly not a scientist and I'm not a medical doctor, so we have to rely on the expertise of the scientists who supported these efforts, both in the past and in our program. And what they're telling us is that this stuff is truly exotic, that this stuff is, it would be like, people say, well, you found this material on the ground. Is it possible some sort of foreign adversary built it? And of course you have to say, yes, it is distinctly possible. But when you look on how this material was manufactured and the precision and the arrangement of the molecules to the other molecules, we've had defense contractors come back to us and say, it's too expensive. We can't make this. And not only can we not make it now, but this material was found decades ago. So that would be like going into, let's say, King Tut's tomb for the very first time in the 1920s, and all of a sudden finding a fully assembled 747 sitting in the tomb, right? It doesn't make sense. That type of capability to make that did not exist at the time the tomb was made. And it's the same thing, same analogy with this. We have material, we know it's there, it's real, we can study it, but we don't know how it's manufactured. And it's manufactured in such a way that is very perplexing, and some of the properties are very nuanced and very interesting. And so this is why you have interest by the government to explore and study these materials.
This is so fascinating to me. It's unbelievable what you must know and what must be out there. I knew we weren't alone. And if we're not, let them be watching Laura Coates Live. Thank you so much. It's so great to have you, Luis Elizondo. Thank you. And the Pentagon saying in a statement, the program, quote, continues its review of the historical record of U.S. government UAP programs, adding that they have not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently.
The biologics. Yes, y'all, that excites me, right? These biological samples. Now, I have to admit, the video that I made about Luis Elizondo in the implants, one of them got pulled down. So my question really is, but I have another one that's still up. So either way, my question is, are the biologics that he's speaking about the implants that they've found or bodies, right? They've said we have bodies, but, or both, right? Which is interesting as well. But that would be interesting to know. Are these samples that they're talking about, which one? The implants or from the actual alien bodies? Again, or both. But yeah, find that quite, mind-blowing, right? It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. And again, I'm going to stay with this. I'm curious where this comes from. Are any of these data or test results or something from these implants or the bodies of these non-humans, right? Will we get any of that information? And let's be real, if we did have these bodies and they were absolutely for certain and we've tested them and this and that, there would be no question of if these craft are non-human or, right, if any of that. Right. When you got the bodies, everything else that comes with it is pretty safe to say not human. So I do find that interesting. And I like the question that she asked about like the Hollywood aliens they've shown, like, right. Like, does it look like any of these here? Right. Because that's what we know. That's what we compare to. Right. What we've seen in TV shows, movies, books, comic books, magazines, right? Artists' renderings, right? It all comes down to what we've been influenced by in that way. And some people say that, the government has, or people within the program have sort of soft disclosed to us through Hollywood movies and TV shows, right? So what we're seeing in some of the ideas and theories or whatever is true. It's just hidden within some of these movies and TV shows. So I don't know. What do you think about that? And the last thing that I thought was interesting that he said was this comparison about the 747 in a tomb. Okay, I get the comparison, but I have to admit I disagree with it, and I'll tell you why. Well, up to a point. So he's basically saying, right, if I mean, you heard him, right? If we find we have these samples of material and we can't, it's really expensive to make now, and certainly decades ago we couldn't have made it, right? And then he compares it to finding a 747, jetliner inside of, right, an Egyptian tomb, thousands of years old. That they no way of reproducing that or making that or whatever. But here's the difference: like, they didn't say we can't make that now. They just said it's too expensive to make now. So we can make it now. So what we're finding is something we can make now. And what if the Egyptians found a 747 in a tomb, whatever, they couldn't make it then, right? So it's just different. You're talking about decades difference versus thousands of years difference, right, between the Egyptian culture and a 747. That's thousands of years of technological difference, whereas this material is apparently only decades of difference, right? Again, it's not saying we can't make it. It's just too expensive to make, but it can be made. And what's the theory of when we could make it more, financially feasible, right? It's more economic, right? Is that just decades away itself, right? Again, that comparison is thousands of years difference. But again, I get the point he's trying to make, but I think it's a little too extreme. But again, I get the point. So, maybe it's just semantics here, and I'm just looking for something to talk about. I don't know, but that's just what struck me about it. But I do get the point he's trying to make. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a lot of fun to make, and I really enjoyed this interview with Luis Elizondo. And yeah, one last thing real quick is the ending. They right in front of him say about the Pentagon and all of that, right? Like what the Pentagon's response is to it right in front of him. And they don't give him a chance to respond to that. One thing would have been if they recorded that separately, then I get it. But he was right there, and they didn't ask him, well, the Pentagon's saying this. What do you say to that? That seemed a little weird to end it like that. You know what I mean? After all that whole conversation, and then to not let Luis Elizondo give a response to that. So anyway, must have been awkward for him sitting right there. I would have been like, hello, hang on, let me respond to that before you cut away. Anyway, that's TV. So, all right, y'all. We'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace!
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.